at Bayou.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Full Court Press, and I always forget our mics come in a little bit hot when I initially switch things over and have to always adjust. So, yeah.
It's okay. It's just my ears. It's just my hearing.
That's all. But lots of things to get through today as we recap the weekend that was. We got high school playoffs to update you on. We've got Utah State football picking up the last second win, a walk-off field goal to beat Wyoming in Laramie. We've got World Series has been exciting. Game 3 gets underway tonight. In fact, we got a lot of big things going on tonight. Some obviously bigger than others, but it's a very busy Monday night in sports. Some involving some local teams. So we'll touch on that a little bit. But also, the latest what's going on with high school football, with the playoffs, who's playing next, who's advancing, where are these games being played. Utah State soccer in action over the weekend as well. So a lot of things to get through here on the Full Court Press. And as always, love to hear from you as well on anything that caught your eye or anything you want to bring up. 435-339-0321 to be a part of the program today. In fact, got a few texts that came through earlier today. One that...
I think there's one left over from that might have been Aggie call.
Yeah, again, remember for Aggie call, it's a different number. If you want to attract our attention to what you have to say.
We're slowly working through the pile up.
Yes, there's a few occasional holdovers that keep using our Full Court Press text line because for a few years that was synonymous, right? It was used for both. But we've created a designated text line just for KVNU game day, which we've been using. So occasionally when we roll into the studio on a Monday, we see a few people thinking they were texting the post-game show and no one noticed it because we weren't watching for it.
Yeah, it might be worth watching it and just giving a gentle reminder whenever you see them. But it's just something that'll take time. Everyone will figure it out.
This text does hit to something that's been percolating throughout the weekend, particularly those from the Wyoming fan base. What is and what is not targeting?
As if anybody really knows anymore. It's like, what is a catch? What is targeting? Although I feel like there were some pretty good explanations handed out because it seemed like everybody watching the game was like, well, yeah, that's targeting. Like DJ Graham just about murdered Tyler King with his shoulder going to his helmet. And isn't targeting the spirit of that rule, isn't it to protect player safety? Yeah, it is. And Tyler King was definitely did he even come back into the game?
I don't know that he came out. Yeah, I don't
probably
think he
shouldn't have, given the way he ended up going off the field. Like clearly concussion protocol. But the rule, as was explained, this is not something that I was too familiar with, but the rule as it was explained by people who know what the rule is and who've had it taught to them or they just read the rule book, it's that it has to do with whether or not he's a defenseless player. It's why later on when Kyrese White was like barely nicked in the back of the head while going for a catch, it was initially called targeting because he's a defenseless player in that situation, as opposed to Tyler King, who was a runner.
An established runner, right.
So the fact that it was shoulder to helmet is apparently important in that case. Although 8824 saying that college only cares about hits with the crown of the helmet. In the NFL, the rule is written that contact may not be made with the helmet, shoulder, or forearm to the head or neck area. So in the NFL, it would be a penalty for it. Is it targeting in the NFL? Or is it just a personal foul? Because I think targeting is a college-specific rule, or at least a call. Although, similar penalty yards may be assessed in the NFL.
That's now I can't think off the top of my head, but you're right. I think that is a penalty in the NFL, but as the rules state in the college level, it wasn't. In fact, the head official, so many people in Laramie were asking about it that he had to, they issued a statement afterwards explaining that rule, as we've just said as well, that just for those reasons, that why it was not ruled or called targeting.
Yeah, so obviously controversial and a big play. I mean, Utah State didn't end up doing anything with the drive after that. I mean, they got the ball on the Wyoming 44, but they went 3 and out. The thing is, Wyoming had gotten to the Utah State 26-yard line. And if you call the play dead there, and heck, let's say you call targeting, then I think they would have ended up, it was a 2-yard loss on the play, but add 15 yards to that. And what is that, the 13 or something like that? Go from the 28 plus 15, get to the 13-yard line. That's points at least.
Oh, yeah.
In a 2-point game.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been huge.
Yeah, it gives you a lot closer opportunity to get a touchdown instead of a field goal, which on the game, Utah State was great defensively, keeping Wyoming out of the end zone for much of the game, the Cowboys having to settle for a lot of field goals, where they did a much better job of getting into the red zone than the Aggies did, but they just couldn't cross the goal line. And that turned out to be the biggest difference of the game.
Yeah, and that's kind of the theme of my Monday cool down, yet to be published, because I've almost finished. I'm like 98% done. Couldn't quite get it done in time for the show. But the thing that I focused on is the fact that Utah State on offense and defense played pretty mediocre to bad for large chunks of this game. But when it mattered most, they stepped up. And like on defense, Wyoming averaged like 8.1 yards per play on snaps that were taken outside of the red zone, or outside of the 30-yard line, excuse me. I know a lot of people use inside the 20s like the red zone. I kind of extend that to the 30-yard lines. Like, these are your prime scoring opportunities. So on plays taken out, at least 30 yards away from the end zone, they averaged 8.1 yards per play. You get inside that arbitrary line, Wyoming averaged like 2.9 yards per play. And it's not the best comparison because, like, just by nature of potential yards, you're going to get fewer yards per play inside the 30. But still, that is a drastic difference. And you look at some of the specific plays, like Sam Scott, 11 carries. He had 1 carry where he was dropped for a loss. That was 1st and goal from the 3. Evan Svoboda in 5 design QB runs, ran for a loss once. That was 2nd and goal from the 5. Tyler King in 9 touches was stopped for a loss once. That was the fumble when Wyoming was inside the 30-yard line. Utah State stepped up in the clutch in a lot of cases, on both sides. We're talking about defense here. Like, they got backed up into the red zone and inside the 30 way too often.
Yeah.
But when they got there, they made the plays that they had to win this game.
But they had, 6 trips? Wyoming had 6 trips inside the 30.
Yeah.
Which I call the scoring territory or scoring zone,
we're both going
whatever
with
you
that,
want to call it. They only got 1 touchdown out of that.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of those series, they had nothing because there was the fumble.
Yeah, that was a fumble. So
what we were talking about, the King hit. But
so that's 42 potential points, and they got 19.
Huge swing.
Yeah, an absolutely massive swing there. Utah State, in contrast, they only had 4 drives that made it inside.
Yeah.
But they had more points on those scenarios.
Right.
They scored a pair of touchdowns, had a pair of field goals. Both teams had 1 touchdown outside the 30-yard line, so kind of a big play for both teams. The Aggies had that 36-yarder to Otto Tia. Suddenly can't remember. Yeah. And then Tyler King, obviously, 54-yard touchdown. But, yeah, it was about making plays when it mattered. And, I mean, you look at the defense. They had their clutch plays. What about the offense? Well, they go down 10-7. Next drive, or I don't know if it's the exact next drive, but with about 5.5 minutes, they took the ball. Rasul Faison rushes the ball 6 times for 54 yards. 4 of his 5 highest rushing yard attempts were on that one drive. So clutch play there. They get a field goal. They tie it at 10. Then the defense gets one of their 2 turnovers of the game, and then the Aggies score a touchdown. They go up 17-10. In 60 seconds of game time, they score 10 points. And I know it was maybe kind of overshadowed a little bit by the third quarter where the Aggies only gained like 9 yards.
9 positive yards.
But it took that entire quarter plus like another minute for Wyoming to make up the difference that Utah State created in a 60-second span. They go up 17-10 at halftime, and Wyoming doesn't take the lead until about 14 and a half minutes left in the fourth quarter. Like, that's how important that sequence ended up being, is it basically made up for an entire quarter of offensive incompetence. It just came down to clutch play. And then when Wyoming goes up 22-17, the Aggies, who had gained 9 yards in like 16, 17 minutes, they go 75 yards in 5 plays. Of course, like 30.
And they were assisted by 30 penalty yards.
30 of that was on penalties, but after those penalties, Spencer Petras completes 3 straight passes for 37 total yards, including the touchdown.
Yeah, he was in rhythm. The offense was clicking. It was working again after it had fallen apart in the third.
Yeah.
It was working. I had confidence that they had enough time and enough rhythm. They were to get down close enough to get to the field goal range. It certainly helped that Wyoming collapsed on the sidelines with some bad penalties and a coach that wouldn't keep his mouth shut. But, you're going to take him. I mean, it happens.
Yeah, and it was making the plays we needed to. They take the lead back, and then even though they went 3 and out, so they lost all the momentum that they gained with that one offensive drive. And they went 3 and out after being handed a fumble recovery on the plus 47. But then Wyoming takes the lead, and what do the Aggies do? They march down the field. They convert on a 4th down. Apparently getting that first down was a real struggle in the second half because they only converted, I think, 1 third down in the second half that wasn't a penalty. There might have been another on that final drive, but in the third quarter they didn't convert on a 3rd down. And on that touchdown drive, the 3rd down they converted was pass interference. Granted, it was pretty obvious pass interference. Then they didn't convert the 3rd down on their first set of downs on the game-winning drive. They had to go for it on 4th down. Bryson Barnes comes into the game. Utah State kind of has to pull out all the stops. And then Spencer Petras completes 2 passes for 26 yards. Faison adds a 9-yard rush. And again, when it was the clutch, when they had to, when they went down, when things were getting tough, the offense showed up. And the defense showed up in their own way. So on both sides of the ball, you got clutch play. When the defense got backed up inside the 30, they stood up. When the offense, despite all of their incompetence for much of the game, this was the 2nd lowest yardage total of the season. Only better than the time they were shut out earlier this year. But when they had to score points and they got behind, they said, all right, let's go. And they'd go the distance, or at least staying close to the distance.
Yeah. All right, a bunch of texts rolling through on the Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321 if you want to chime in. This came in earlier this afternoon from 8968. I've looked at our schedule in football this year. An average Aggie team in the 60s and early 70s would have handled most of it. Even teams in the modern era would do much better. What I guess I'm saying is that this team is even worse than in the Chris Pella era. Struggling. They have struggled against some bad teams. Washington State is the next opponent. They're cracked the top 25 today. And there's some other teams after that mediocre or also struggling. See how Utah State handles the last little bit of the season. 2444. I know it was just a battle of 1-6 teams on Saturday night, but the game-winning field goal felt like a bigger outcome than that. Glad that the players and coaches were finally able to have a little something to celebrate about. It's also fun to see the rifle coming back to Logan where it belongs. Hope that's not the last one of the season, but I enjoyed it regardless.
Yeah, it was definitely a nice bright spot where you get a win. This isn't going to be remembered as a great Aggie team. It's not going to be remembered as a super fun season unless they just roll from here and suddenly become bowl eligible. Then it becomes a weird season.
Then it's a magical, weird, but some magical finish, if you will.
A memorable second half as opposed to a forgettable first half. But it was a thrilling football game, and that's why you look at this last game and then the New Mexico game. It's like everyone chooses to ignore these bad teams, but they can produce some really fun football games. And that's why you can still follow these games, and it's why maybe you pay attention to these ones. Like Washington State next week, that might get ugly. But in these games, you can produce some really fun football. A walk-off field goal. Last week, last-minute touchdowns. Obviously, it didn't go Utah State's way, but it was a thrilling game. So it was nice to have exciting football, and obviously even more nice that Utah State was on the right side of that in this case.
5338. It was relief that Aggie football got the win on Saturday, but the fact is they struggled to beat a 1-6 football team. Aggies are basically an FCS program right now.
Well, the one FCS team they played, they beat 36-14. So that, put that in context.
I don't.
Obviously,
not ready to call them an FCS team.
But that's hyperbole in and of itself. But yeah,
they've struggled, sure, but they've also had a really challenging schedule. But they've got a
challenging schedule does not excuse a loss to Temple and beating Wyoming by 2 points.
No.
That just doesn't.
No.
Utah State isn't 2-6 because of their schedule. They're 2-6 because they deserve to be 2-6 with how they've played.
They should be really. You could easily say they should be like 4-4 at this point.
Yeah, if they were a little healthier and if they were executing to a degree that we were maybe expecting in the offseason, then you'd probably see them with 2 more wins. They'd have wins over New Mexico and Temple. Those were teams we expected them to beat preseason, and they haven't, despite the fact that New Mexico and Temple are both not very good teams.
Right, you had second half double-digit leads over both.
Like Utah State's schedule is easier than it looked in the offseason because Utah and USC, not nearly as great as we thought they were. I mean, they were ranked early in the season. They've both fallen off. And, Temple and New Mexico and Wyoming, they're all like bottom of the NCAA as far as their prowess.
Yes.
So Utah State has played, 4 good teams, and they've played some really bad teams, 3 or 4 really bad teams as well. With an FCS team and then 3 of the worst teams in FBS. Like this, you can't blame the schedule on this one.
6543, a small ray of light in a dark, dismal season. 2 weeks from now, we play a good team. We have not fared well against good teams. Outcome will be a loss and no bowl this year. Sorry, I deal in reality.
Yeah, you kind of have to be like that. That's why I say, this isn't going to be remembered as one of the best Aggie teams. Like, even if they won out, they wouldn't be. We know who this team is for the most part. It's a banged-up team that is going to limp through the rest of the season. They're going to get beat up in at least a couple of these games. They might scrounge up a win or 2 as well. They're scrappy. And that's kind of what the Wyoming game showed. Like, they could have rolled over. They could have lost. They're on the road. But they showed up. They played hard, even without several of their stars. And they went out and got a win.
Look, and I don't know how many of you watched the San Diego State-Washington State game because it came on after the Aggies. But San Diego State should have won that game. They squandered that as much as Washington State won it. That's not to necessarily put down Washington State because this is a good football team that's played their way into the top 25. They're number 22 in both polls. They're finding ways to win, even though it may be winning ugly. But they didn't really blow my socks off when I watched them last week. But still, it's a very solid team offensively and defensively. And Utah State's definitely going to have their challenge trying to get a win in Pullman. But it's not like that's a team that's just physically bigger and more domineering than Utah State should be able to handle.
Yeah, you'd think, but I mean, Utah State defensively still not very great against Wyoming. They were great in moments.
Right.
That's the praise that they deserve, is being great in moments. But Wyoming also a team that averages 17 points per game prior to Saturday, put up 25. That was their second highest total of the season. They had their highest yards by far the entire season.
470.
Yeah, versus 381 was their next highest. I don't know. They were probably one of the last teams to have a 400-yard offensive game this season. So, it wasn't like Utah State suddenly improved in this game and was suddenly way better than they've been. A lot of the same problems were present. They just overcame a lot of those in the situations that mattered. They were not very good on defense up until Wyoming got to the 30-yard line. Suddenly they were executing the way they really should be, throughout the entire field. On offense, they basically played like a quarter's worth of really good offensive football, but scattered across 4 quarters, and it was just enough to get the win. So a lot of the same issues are there, and when they play good teams, if those issues aren't resolved, they're going to, get rolled.
Right, they'll get exposed.
But in this game, and again, credit where it is absolutely due, they made the plays necessary to win a football game.
Well, and as you had said multiple times last week, Saturday would be a test of who makes the fewest mistakes. And Wyoming had 2 turnovers. Utah State had 0. I thought Utah State did better with its clock management and its red zone defense than Wyoming did. Penalties, it's about even as far as catastrophic penalties. Certainly the 2 stacked on top of each other really doomed Wyoming in that final drive. But Wyoming just made a few more mistakes than the Aggies did. And they also took them too long to figure out who their quarterback is going to be. I think they finally figured it out, and Svoboda is not the quarterback for Wyoming. I kind of ended up being wrong. I don't know if I said it too much out loud, but my internal thought was that Evan Svoboda would end up being the quarterback who played most of this game, not for his prowess throwing the ball, but the fact that he would tear the Aggies a new one with running on the ground. Yeah, because Utah State has such a porous run defense. You give the ball to your running quarterback against that type of a defense.
Yeah, and he showed a couple of those because he had like a 14-yard run and a 10-yard run, and I think there was another run where he's half decent. But the thing is, whenever they got put in a passing situation and Svoboda was in, Aggies are already doing a fist pump saying, yeah, we got this one. Because we can play like 2 of 7 passes. Terrible throwing. And Caden Anderson comes in, and it's not like he was the savior or anything. He did okay passing, but it was night and day compared to Svoboda. And he even threw in a bit of rushing. He obviously wasn't dynamic on the ground, but he gained 3, 4, 6 yards on these carries. I think caught the Aggies off guard because maybe they weren't actually expecting QB runs with Caden Anderson. But he was by far the better quarterback, and so I think they had him in for most of the second half, except for that one series where they threw in Svoboda because they were trying to get cute, saying let's put in the big running quarterback. The Aggies actually have made this mistake before when they put in Levi Williams in the goal line. And I was like, all right, we're going to throw the big quarterback, and
we're telegraphing to everybody what our intents are.
Yeah, goal line success, and that's where the Aggies dropped Sam Scott for a loss, and then Evan Svoboda for a loss. So it didn't go particularly well. And they threw Caden Anderson in, and he overthrew Sargent. So, I do think that I think Wyoming's probably figured out who their quarterback is. They're probably going to go with Caden Anderson, but as you said, it was a little too late as their offense couldn't find that rhythm for the entire game. And that was one of the things we talked about is that the 2 quarterback system was going to impact Wyoming. Because all it is it's a placeholder until you figure out which guy you're actually going with.
Yep.
And until then, your offense kind of gets hamstrung a little bit by this chaos of not knowing who's in, quarterbacks not being able to get into a rhythm and all that. And so Utah State was kind of saved by that as well, by kind of poor coaching.
Yeah, and on the final box, Anderson ended up rushing for more yards than Svoboda did by 1 yard.
Yeah. Svoboda did get sacked, so sack adjusted. Of course, did Anderson get sacked at all?
I think he did. Because Kean Sloan had 2 sacks. And were there any other sacks on the day?
Yeah, there
was only those 2 sacks, and one was on Svoboda. I thought the other one was on Anderson.
It probably was. I was looking at this earlier because I saw that Svoboda had 5 attributed runs, but like as far as his specific rush attempts, there's specific designed run plays, but he had 6 rush attempts because college is stupid and they count sacks as rush attempts. So
Well, while you look that up, we need to take a timeout, and we'll try to get some definitive stuff there. We've got a few more texts to get through as well. Love to hear from you also. 435-339-0321. Reacting to Utah State's walk-off field goal win, 27-25 over Wyoming on Saturday.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. A few years ago, I saw this sign hanging in a gas station. It said price, quality, service. Pick 2 out of the 3. Now, it's funny, and I did laugh, but at My Mattress, we don't even want to do business unless we can do all 3. Price, quality, and service. We have a 90-day sleep guarantee, 90-day price guarantee, and we will answer the phone if you have a warranty concern. At My Mattress, we deliver, we have financing, we strive to be price, quality, and service every day. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
Are you looking for compassionate and reliable care for yourself or a loved one? Look no further than Aegis Home Health and Hospice. I'm Tom Sherlock, a licensed social worker, part of the dedicated team of professionals committed to meeting the needs of our community. Voted best in Northern Utah 2 years in a row, we pride ourselves on delivering exceptional service that you can depend on. We're here to ensure comfort and dignity every step of the way. When it comes to your health, choose the agency that Northern Utah trusts the most. Choose Aegis. Visit myaegis.com or call today 435-723-9000.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
Whether you're a farmer working the fields, a homeowner tackling weekend projects, or a contractor building the next big thing, you need a Kubota machine that works as hard as you do. And Cash Equipment is home to all your Kubota equipment, service, and parts needs. From plowing fields and clearing land to digging trenches and moving material. Come see why Cash Equipment and Kubota are the choice of champions on the farm, at home, and on the job site. Cash Equipment in Hyde Park and online at cashequipment.com.
Interviews, analysis, and a little bit of fun mixed in. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
So Wyoming coach Jay Sawvell not only got the penalty that added 15 more yards to Utah State's final drive of the game, he was issued a public reprimand today by Mountain West officials.
So basically, he was told he's a very naughty boy,
Yes,
and that's
shame
all he
on
gets.
you. Well, he cost his team a win.
I guess, is that punishment enough? What was the thing he was complaining about? I don't know if I read a full direct quote from him, but I understand he obviously wasn't happy about the pass interference, which was weird because it was a pass interference that gets called every time it happens. Like it's one of those things that if referee sees this happen, he throws the flag automatically. Like it's wired into their heads. Underthrown pass, wide receiver slows down to try and get it. Defender pushes into him. Obviously, defender's kind of screwed in that situation.
Right, there's momentum.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot they can do. So it's not so much a bad play by the defender. It's just that's just what happens. You call pass interference, and then I guess he probably also wasn't happy about the targeting. But I don't know if I saw a quote about that.
Yeah. Well, so he his comments today. This is courtesy of Alex Taylor, who covers the Cowboys in Laramie. This is attributes this quote to Jay Sawvell. It says, officials don't cause wins and losses. They don't. We had the ball 3 times when we had to kick field goals inside the 15-yard line. There's your game. Yeah, that's coaching, and on his part, and strong defense on Utah State's part.
Yeah. I don't think Wyoming had a very good game as far as coaching. Obviously, the 2-quarterback system, some interesting decisions, throwing Evans Svoboda in situations where Caden Anderson was probably a better option, like end of the first half. 2-minute drill, and they have Svoboda out there. Clearly the worse thrower, and at least by what I ended up seeing in the game, maybe they hadn't seen that out of Anderson truly yet. But, hindsight's kind of 20/20 in that situation, especially because Svoboda overthrew a pass and got it picked off.
Yep.
By Jordan Vincent, and that was a massive play. As I've already mentioned, that 10-point burst for Utah State basically completely eliminated the horrible third quarter from the Aggies, just completely offset the no offense from the Aggies in that quarter and gave them the time to eventually cook up some clutch drives on offense.
Let's see. A reminder, if you want to weigh in, love to hear from you on our Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321, 1678 texting in. Glad to see Barnes get in the game. He gave us the momentum shift we needed to win. Need to see more of him if we're going to win any more games this year. So, yeah, I'll admit it was good to see him in. I think he executed the play well.
That was almost a disaster of a play, and Barnes made something out of what was almost a loss. Like
it looked a little shaky at first, but he pulled it off.
It was an, oh, no, this is going to go so bad. And then it was like, oh, my gosh, you got 6 yards. And
because it was the option to – it was the fake handoff, an option to toss it to White on the edge to have him run it through or keep it to run it up. And he looks to White, kind of does this clutch like, oh, maybe should I? No. Oh, and then
Well, he's also got like the defensive end, I think, was crashing in. Like I think there was one of the blockers on him. I hadn't gone back and rewatched the play. Maybe I should have done that before talking about it. But I remember there was a defender kind of blocked, but like right in Barnes' face a little bit.
Does a bit of a double clutch and then decides to just put his head down and go forward. Yeah, that was a big play. And look, I'm not anti-Barnes. I think I've tried to make that abundantly clear.
I think we both sound like the biggest Bryson Barnes haters in the world.
No, I think there are situations where he can help the team, and that was a perfect example of it on that fourth down situation. But Spencer Petras is the better quarterback who's going to give you the best chance to win games.
Yeah,
I don't need to say any more than that. But there can be situations where having a mobile quarterback might help you to move the sticks and keep the momentum going in your favor. Spencer can't do that as well. But when you bring Bryson Barnes in, like we've been talking about with Svoboda, you're now sending a massive signal to the other team. We're going to run the ball with our quarterback.
Yeah. And if you can sometimes be a little cheeky with it. And I remember there was Levi Williams where they drew up this perfect play where it was, they sent him out and so it was like telegraphing, oh, we're going to run this. But then they ran like a quick tight end route. And the only thing that went wrong was Levi Williams kind of overthrew his guy. Kind of an outlier. Just normally he wouldn't miss that pass, but it would have gone for like 30 yards. But yeah, I mentioned Svoboda coming in, Levi Williams in another case last season where they said, all right, we're going to run the ball. And they get stuffed on multiple plays in a row. And it shows that you can sometimes get a little cute with this and sometimes it works. And heck, Wyoming was not ready for it because Bryson Barnes went out there and Wyoming called a timeout. A timeout that they certainly could have used later on in the game.
Right. Yeah. Utah State caused them to burn a timeout, burn some chalk. But after the timeout, he still comes back out there. Like, you saw what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're still going to do it.
And luckily, it didn't go wrong. And credit to the execution and even the play, because they gave themselves multiple options, which is the key there. I don't think Wyoming really gave itself multiple options when it threw a Svoboda out there. So for Utah State, they made the right decision when putting Barnes in there. And, and heck, you look at some of Utah State's most successful drives, they all included some kind of trickery or unconventional.
That's true.
They scored touchdowns they had the reverse flea flicker.
Flea flicker, yeah.
They had the Grant Page pass to Razul Faison, and then the fourth down conversion where you throw in the backup QB. But yeah, I'd emphasize that Barnes is not going to be the key to Aggie victories in the future. I get that he's a good, a good second option, but he is the second option. And in some cases, a niche option where you can throw him in there in specific scenarios. And if you got the right play drawn up, you can have success. But that's like a 1 play out of 70 situation.
Look, he's not an incompetent thrower. Just Petras is the better thrower. He's got the better arm, the better accuracy, more zip on it. Barnes can do some things. As we saw last year with Utah, he really helped them win a good number of games for them. But in this system, Petras is the better quarterback. Similar to some of the stupid stuff I've seen going on social media over the weekend, where people saying that Blake Anderson ran Cooper Legas out of the building, which that's a total lie. It was clear that Spencer Petras was going to be the starter. He was a better thrower in the spring. And the coaching staff said, look, we have to go with this guy as our starter, and we'd still want you to be part of this program. But Cooper's like, look, I've been the backup I want to go somewhere else. I've played that role. It's not like they ran him out of the building.
Yeah, they had a
we need to stop with that narrative because it's flat out a lie.
Yeah, they had a quarterback battle. Cooper Legas lost it, and so he transferred, very understandably, to go play his last season somewhere else. Which, mind you, he's largely
Blake made it very clear they wanted him to stay.
And granted, I don't even know if he's really outright won the Tulsa job. He played last week, but I don't think he'd played much before then. So it's not like you ran out.
6 weeks into it, he finally had a game of note.
So it's not like they ran out an all Mountain West quarterback. And like Utah State doesn't have an elite quarterback, but they have a good quarterback in Spencer Petras. His stats are a little inflated by volume, but this is still a guy who's thrown for 290 plus yards 4 times this season. He's completed 60+% of his passes in every full game except for Temple, in which he completed like 59% of his passes. And that's his worst game. So again, it's really weird that we keep having this discussion about Bryson Barnes, because that chatter came up again because Utah State was struggling. It's like, put Barnes in. It's like,
can Barnes tackle?
No.
Can Barnes play defense? Because if that's where we're talking about putting Barnes in the game, well, that's where the help is needed on defense.
Yeah.
Not under center.
Well, and can Barnes catch the ball too? Because that was probably the bigger problem in a lot of the game is without Jalen Royals, guys were struggling to get open and they were struggling to catch the ball when it was put within, catch rating. Like there were bad throws that Petras had, but there were several throws that were pretty much on point, and they were just straight up dropped by his receivers. And
Autotia targeted 9 times, 6 catches, so it's 67% catch percentage.
Yeah.
Kyrese White 44%, Grant Page 60%, Will Money 33%.
Yeah, and a lot of that is either dropping the pass or not getting open enough for Petras to have a window to throw the ball into, because in a lot of cases, he just has to throw the ball into a nigh uncatchable situation to avoid it getting picked if he tried putting it in their catch radius. Like, there's one case where the guy was running a short hitch route and Bryson Barnes basically throws it at his left ankle, but that's because the defender's draped all over his chest. If he throws it right in his numbers, it gets picked or definitely batted away. So there was with the passing game, it was very much both. There was blame on both the quarterback and the wide receiver, and that there were some inaccurate passes, but there was a lot of cases where the passing game just wasn't generating open looks for Barnes to be able to throw to. And also,
Petras.
Petras. What did I say?
Barnes.
Petras needed to find open lanes to throw, and he struggled to do that. And contrary to what people say, like Petras does actually scan most of the field.
Yeah, he is.
Like go watch some of his plays where
he's clearly going through his progressions.
He looks one place on the field, then he looks at another, then he looks at another. He's not. They say, he locks in on his one receiver and then he throws it. Well, a lot of plays are designed to have that one read, and if you think it's open, you throw. And if it's just completely not there, that's when you move through them. So sometimes it looks like he's locking onto his one guy, but that's because that's his first read. And if his first read looks open, he's going to throw it.
Right. He's looking on that side of the field. Yeah, there were times where he did lock a little bit in the UNLV game, in the New Mexico game. But I thought Saturday he did a much better job of surveying the entire field. And part of that too is he's had number one reliable that he can go to in times of stress. And that's something that he's got to work on with his receivers, knowing that, hey, I don't have that guy that's going to be pretty reliable, that can create separation, that can create a target window for me to throw to. I've got to work with these other guys to learn how they like it, and they've got to get used to being what it takes for them to get open for him too. A couple of the texts coming through. This one from 8968 is Cooper playing very much football this year? Not much. Cooper, I'm assuming you're talking about Cooper Legas.
Yeah, because
he had a big game last week. 300 some odd yards passing?
Yeah, so he completed 16 of 31 passes for 333 yards and 5 touchdowns. A statistically productive game. Maybe iffy on efficiency, but you throw for 300 yards. You threw for 300 yards.
And you got it into the end zone 5 times.
Yeah, that's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
That overrides any efficiency concerns you'd really have because he got it done. He also ran it for 46 yards. probably shaved off a little bit. He might have been sacked once or twice. So probably undercooking his rushing yards. Even then, he still had 46. But he's been pretty limited in a lot of these other games. He's appeared like he's thrown at least 3 passes, I think each of their last 4 games. And he also comes in and runs the ball. Heck, he had 17 rush attempts against Army for 81 yards. He's basically one of their runners. Again, I've not followed, so I don't know the context behind these numbers. He's playing, but he's not like the guy, except this last week when he definitely was.
1-6-7-8. 4 of the 6 possessions in the second half were third and out. Defense is struggling to get off the field, and offense isn't helping.
And this is why I say Utah State didn't have a great game. They played clutch because, 4 of the 6 possessions in the second half, they went 3 and out. The other 2 were a touchdown to retake the lead and the game-winning field goal. So it's like, that's your second half offense. Horrible, except for the 2 drives where you had to get something done.
Yeah, and that's that's where complementary football needs to come into play. Give your defense a chance to get some rest on the sidelines, because 1 minute 16 seconds went off the clock in their first 3 and out in the third quarter. A minute 50 off the clock on their second possession of the third quarter. 57 seconds off the clock in their first possession of the fourth. Of course, that was part of a carryover from the previous period. A minute 13 and you're 3 and out in another possession in the fourth. So they've got to find ways to sustain drives, but also not be so quick paced, quick fire that your defense barely gets a chance to sit down and they have to get back up and put their helmet on to get out on and try to win the game again.
Yeah, I can't imagine it helped a ton. And again, while Utah State was having all those 3 and outs, Wyoming's second half drives were field goal, punt, got a first down, but still punt, touchdown on a 1-play drive, 7-play drive that ended in a fumble, and then a field goal. So of their... Yeah,
and 3 of those drives in that second half were for 5 minutes or more for the Wyoming offense.
Yeah, in the third quarter, Wyoming had the ball for, I think, 11 minutes and 58 seconds. So, not a whole lot of time for the Utah State offense. They basically handed the entire quarter to Wyoming and said, do whatever you want with it. And that's not good. Like I said, the Utah State was not necessarily great. They weren't great in this game, and you could maybe argue they weren't even good. It's just, in the end, they made the plays they had to. And so that's the nuance to this game. Utah State played bad, but clutch. And so they get 27-25 win, second win of the season.
Yes. 6-3-2-8 before we hit a timeout. Hard to win games when you're a bottom 5 team in the country in defense. I believe second worst. It's the defense is definitely a struggle for the Aggies.
Allowing only 25 points may or may not have bumped them up from second worst. I'm going to check, though.
Points-wise, that helped them. Total yards given up doesn't. When you give up 470 yards to a Wyoming offense that hasn't been good.
They're still second worst in points. I just checked. So they're still the second worst defense in the country.
All right, another quick timeout. Love to continue to get your thoughts and reactions to the Utah State football win over the weekend, 27-25 over Wyoming.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
The convenience and security a Generac backup generator can bring is unmatched. Golden Spike Electric is your local source for Generac sales and service. Act now, and for a short time, take advantage of Generac's free 7-year warranty. Get yours today at Golden Spike Electric, your trusted source for safety and security. Generac keeps you in control. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Ski season is coming, which means season ski rentals. This is Mark at the Sportsman, where we have over 20 years of season ski rental experience. We rent to kids and adults. Come in to get season ski rentals for your entire family. We like to wait a little later in the fall because there is a chance your kids might grow out of their boots by the time ski season actually rolls around. Starting at $69.99, you will get the right gear for your kids to ski this year at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan with tons of parking in the back.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Utah State field goal kicker Tanner Cragun today announced as the Mountain West Conference Special Teams Player of the Week. And also the freshman of the week for his performance, game-winning performance at Wyoming over the weekend. Career long for him, and he's been pretty solid for the Aggies since Elliot Nimrod started missing earlier in the season.
Yeah, that was one of the things that when I've seen Elliot Nimrod kick is he has the leg, but the accuracy is a bit iffy, and we didn't see that last season where he was pretty reliable. I think he only missed like 3 field goals all year, 3 or 4.
Yeah, he was really solid.
Yeah, very reliable as you're tend to gonna get out of a college kicker. But Tanner Cragun's come in. It seems to not have the distance because from what we've heard is that the long field goal kicker is Elliot Nimrod. Heck, he was out there when Utah State ran that fake, or at least tried to run that fake against New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Because it was like they thought it was just outside of Nimrod's field goal range, but he was out there because he's the long field goal kick taker. And they were even talking about that on the broadcast where it's like, Elliot Nimrod's range, then Tanner Cragun's range, where Cragun ends up hitting it from 40, but he's been pretty reliable. I think he has missed at least one, hasn't he? I'm going to go double check his...
I think Cragun has missed one.
So yeah, he missed one against New Mexico. One they probably should have made. So he's 4 out of 5 this season on his field goals, 16 of 16 on extra points. But yeah, he's become pretty reliable, and is a redshirt freshman. Granted, he's a redshirt freshman who this is his 3rd year in college. But it's really weird because I think he was on University of Utah in 2018 or 2019, and he goes on a mission. He comes back and it's 20 or wait, no.
Well, he was talking about it after the game.
Yeah. His first year was 2020. Then he went on a mission. Then he came back. And I think that was 2023. Red shirts. And that's how he comes into Utah State as a 3rd-year redshirt freshman.
Yeah, guy's been around for a little while.
Yeah.
He's a very old redshirt freshman.
Yeah, he walked on 2 different years at Utah. Transferred to Utah State. So the Aggies may very well have their kicker for the next 4 years. Maybe. You always got to put an asterisk on that.
Okay, so here's what I have to go back through my texts to go find this, but this is what he said after the game. He says, I graduated in 2020, committed to Utah during COVID, and it was wild. After that, served a 2-year church mission in Portugal. That was awesome. I'm just reading my text or my tweets verbatim here. Came back, realized I needed a change. USU gave me a call, and now I'm here.
Yeah, so obviously there's 2 years missing, obviously, when he wasn't playing. But yeah, you're talking about a guy who first went to college in 2020, and he's now entering his 3rd year. But so he got a COVID year plus red shirt, and now he's here at Utah State as their is he their leading scorer? No, I think now that's Jalen Royals and Razul Faison.
Yeah,
because they both have 6 touchdowns.
But he's moving up. He's responsible for 9 points.
9 points in this
the weekend?
Last game.
Wow.
2 field goals and 3 extra points, I believe.
The other thing, the other news today, Utah State announcing their kick time when they travel to Washington State in about 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, their next game.
Yeah, they got a bye week this week, so hence no press conference from the coach or players. No practices for me to go to this week, at least not early in the week. But
you went during one of the practices during the last bye week.
Yeah, I was on a Thursday.
Yeah,
so I'll see if I can do that again this time. Though that will be Halloween. It's okay. We'll figure it out.
They may not be practicing.
Should come
that
in
day.
Costume. But anyway, Washington State hosting the Aggies on November 9th, 8:30 kickoff on the CW.
Mountain West After Dark, or future Pac-12 After Dark, baby. Wasn't the Big Ten that was trying to do the Big Ten After Dark thing?
Try to copy it?
Yeah, they were trying to do that. They're like, the Pac-12 After Dark. We have four, former Pac-12, right? Isn't it USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon?
Yeah.
They all landed in the Big Ten. And so they're trying to copy that. And it's like, shut up.
Yeah, come on.
Don't do that.
Come on now. Yeah. So Utah State historically 2-2 against the Cougars.
How many of those games have happened in the 21st century?
I know of one.
Yeah, we can all think of the one.
The big comeback that sparked a very magical season for the Utah State Aggies in Blake Anderson's first year that helped the Utah State Aggies get that conference championship.
That season carrying so much water for Blake Anderson's legacy.
Yes.
Like, my goodness.
All right, gonna take another timeout here on the Full Court Press. Still time for you to weigh in. Love to hear from you. 435-339-0321.
Markets are unpredictable, but reaching your financial goals shouldn't be. Adams Wealth Advisors is dedicated to helping you navigate these challenges and ensure you're prepared for every outcome. Whether your financial plan revolves around advanced tax planning, estate planning, business strategies, retirement planning, or investment management, Adams Wealth Advisors team of CPAs, CFPs, and CFAs will provide the expertise needed to help you reach your financial goals. Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com. That's AdamsWealthAdvisors.com for more information or to schedule an appointment.
Have you thought about your furnace lately? Of course not. It's hot outside. Now's a great time to start thinking about replacing it or having it serviced for fall and winter. Advanced Heating and Air will help you get some of the industry's best rebates on a new high-efficient York furnace installed in your home. Or one of Advanced Heating and Air's service professionals can service your furnace for the upcoming winter season. Call today, 752-7272, or schedule a free estimate at advancedheating-ac.com. York, install confidence.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
Guys, are you thinking about testosterone therapy but unsure if it's safe for you? Let the specialists at Budge Clinic Urology guide you in making the right decision. With their expertise in men's health, they offer evidence-based treatment for low testosterone, ED, and urinary issues. Plus, they're the go-to experts in prostate cancer screening and cutting-edge robotic surgery. If you're considering a vasectomy, call Budge Clinic Urology today at 435-716-1450 to schedule a quick consultation. Trust Doctors Lusney, Bassett, Heiner, and John McVeigh for your men's health needs. Hablamos Español.
Breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Snow, ice, and cold weather are literally on their way. Could be here starting tomorrow morning, and a chance of quite a bit of snow in some parts of the state. So make sure your vehicle is ready for it. It's even your wiper blades from Rain-X and Trico. Napa has them. They can even help you install them if you need help doing that. So be prepared for cold weather and snow with help from your friends at your locally owned Preston of Providence Napa Auto Parts. More than just football over the weekend, we had some football for the Utah State women's soccer team, trying to stay in the hunt for the Mountain West Conference Championship. They've punched their ticket. They've qualified enough, at least for the Mountain West Conference tournament. But seeding is important here, and still trying to be in the hunt for the regular season title. But, Jason, is that even still a possibility at this point?
It might be, but it would require a lot of help. I think mathematically it may be possible for them to get a share of the Mountain West title. Boise State actually clinched a share of the regular season title this past weekend. Utah State had a chance to make up ground because they were a game behind Boise State and a game behind Colorado State. Colorado State lost, and Utah State plays Boise State next, meaning that with that loss, they had a chance to basically, it would be a shared title at best with Boise State having won, but they could have got that shared title for sure, or at least controlled their own destiny for a shared title, or heck, maybe even a three-way for that shared title, with Colorado State also being in the mix there. All they had to do was beat Nevada, and in the 79th minute against Nevada, the Aggies went up 2-1. Kate Christian with a goal, and so the Aggies just had to close out the final 12 minutes to get a win on the road against Nevada. But in the 88th minute, Nevada ties the game at 2 apiece, and that's where it would finish. So the Aggies had a golden opportunity to get themselves a chance at that shared title, regular season title. Now that opportunity is lost, and likely the best they'll end up with it is obviously a guaranteed shot at the conference tournament title and a guaranteed spot in the NCAA tournament, which they may be right there as far as an at-large bid, the way they started the season, and with where they're probably at in the RPI and all the rankings. But a little disappointing for Utah State soccer, the way the season started versus where they're at in their own conference race. But it's not like the season's lost.
Right.
Pretty much all of their goals are still in front of them. Maybe a regular season title isn't there, but conference tournament title and NCAA tournament very much within their grasp.
Yeah. So tough. It's not a loss, but it was a tie.
Yeah, they've lost once this season, and I feel like I'm acting like it's almost akin to Utah State football. It's like this is still the best season in Utah State soccer history.
Yeah, still very, very strong season for the Utah State women's soccer program with the tie against Nevada over the weekend as their regular season is winding down here quickly.
Yeah, it tells you how great the season's been that a disappointing game is a tie.
It's only a tie. A lot more to discuss next hour. We'll get into high school soccer championship and high school football playoffs as well.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. After Deshaun Watson's Achilles injury, the Browns were forced to transition to backup quarterback Jameis Winston, going from a $250 million quarterback to a backup making under $2 million this season would typically be a major concern. That hasn't been the case for the Browns. Since Watson arrived in Cleveland, the three-time Pro Bowler has never thrown for over 300 yards in a single game. Winston did that yesterday against the divisional rival Ravens. The success without the team starter doesn't end there, though. Watson also missed time last season, but instead of crumbling, backup quarterback Joe Flacco went on to have 5 games in which he threw for more than 300 yards and helped the team make the playoffs. After a major injury, you don't want to kick a player when he's down, but after watching multiple backup QBs thrive in Cleveland while Watson has struggled, it's becoming harder and harder to say he hasn't been the issue. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.